Hey guys, what's going on? David Avalon here with Robert Drysdale for another episode of Breaking the Guard. Robert, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I had a fun night last night with the boys, and here we are. Let's do our 26th episode.
26, yeah. This will be
All right.
number 26. I was just talking to you, or actually you were just telling me, we had Who's Number One from Flow Grappling.
Yes.
And we had Keenan Cornelius go up against Roberto Jimenez.
Yes.
And I remember when I first got here, I think Roberto was training at your gym. He was at brown belt at the time.
Yeah.
And he's super young. I think he's like 17 now he's probably 18.
At the time he would have been 17, 18. Yeah.
I remember rolling with him and he was giving me everything.
Yeah, he's
I'm
an
like,
animal.
man, this kid's a freaking monster.
No, I first heard of him when he there was I think a Royale, some tournament they did at Studio 5 for 40.
Okay.
And he was a blue belt and he was beating some, because I think they mixed up all the, from memory, don't quote me, but I think they mixed blue, purple, brown, and he won the whole thing as a blue belt.
Oh wow.
Which was pretty impressive, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So we just had a big win against Keenan this past weekend.
It was a very close match.
I saw bits and pieces of it on Instagram. I didn't see the whole thing.
The end, I saw some people had some controversy with it. I don't know. I'm not the ref. I don't know the call. But Roberto was up by 2, and Keenan had his warm guard, and I guess he was doing what is called warm wrestling, because he was holding on to the lapel at one point, and he was rushing into Roberto, and then Roberto pulled guard. So some people saying, oh, that should have been a takedown because Keenan initiated like a forward motion or whatnot. But other people saying, oh, it was a very smart guard pull because it happened before like a takedown could begin. I don't know.
Yeah.
But either way, it was a pretty good match.
Yeah, from my understanding, Flow Grappling was responsible for the promotion, but I think the logistics of it was done by Seth.
Oh, okay.
I think so. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. Is it a fight to win?
Yeah, fight to win. Yeah, I think that's what because they had a similar form. It reminded me a lot to fight, so I'm wondering if it was probably some cross.
But they were because on a fight to win.
But I could be wrong.
I coached competitors for one fight to win in Miami, and it was more like a judging criteria. They weren't using points.
Yeah, no, they have a different system. I think
this
the
was
rules.
scored by this was by points.
IBJJF system, from my understanding.
It was scored by points, and Roberto, I think, scored all of his points with Bolos, enough, which is crazy. Right from the get-go.
The thing is, strategies is. I think that Keenan allowed him to pull guard. I saw that first part, right? And a lot of times, whoever sets the stand in the beginning of the fight normally dictates the pace and where the fight's going to take place, right? So I always advise people to take a lot of care about beginning of the fight. You have to be extra sharp, I feel like. You have to be sharp the whole fight, really.
Yeah.
But I feel like in the beginning, it's one of those things where that's going to determine where the fight's going to take place. So there's no room for error, right? I think maybe there was a mistake there letting him pull, or maybe not. Maybe that was part of his strategy. But it's a great win, man. What a way to debut. Beat one of the top black belts in the world. First match as a black belt. Very impressive.
Yeah, not bad.
But it reinforces something I've always said. People think there's this enormous difference between, competitive blue belts and competitive purple belts, and there's a huge jump. And the truth is, it's not that big of a jump. It's mainly experience. Like a badass brown belt can hang with just about any black belt in the world. Now they may not, probably not going to win the black belt division, but he'd be up there with the top dogs. And that's what happens as soon as they get their black belts. What happens? If they're winning brown belt, the next year they're placing black belt.
Yeah,
they're right there. If they're not on the podium, they're very close to it. So I think that we have this. We mythologize the black belt so much, like you're supposed to be this superhero the day you get your black belt. And the truth is, the guys that are winning at purple and brown belt level, and man, they're like a notch behind guys like Keenan.
Yeah, well, I think one of the main things of being a competitor that you can attest to is the mental game.
Yeah.
And if you're if you're competing as a white belt, that's not really the same. But once you're getting into purple territory, you're going against people who are very competitive at that point.
Yeah.
And they're very skilled. So the level of competition could be just as fierce as far as the mental, the amount of desire those competitors have. So that might not change that much. If anything, they might be even hungrier at that point.
And they're training just as much.
Because they're trying to come up the ranks. So if you still have that same mindset, the skill disparity is not as much, and I don't think it's as important either. the type of game that you're going to play is probably not going to change all that much for the most part as you move up the ranks. You're known as the Brimbola guy or you're the leg lock guy. You're probably still going to be that same guy throughout your career because that's what's made you really strong. So I mean, you're still just gaining inches on that aspect. And as long as you don't have any giant weaknesses in your game, they're not going to really be, I don't think, like you say, going from brown to black is going to be a huge
I think the experience is the big thing. I think that's like, because, you know, even if you come up through ranks, white through brown, and you're competing like every other weekend, you still far behind someone who's had a black belt for 5-6 years in terms of experience.
Yeah.
But you're right, there might be hungrier. I think the technical disparity is a lot smaller than people think it is. But it's more of a experience. Like they're lacking they haven't made enough mistakes yet. Where someone's been a black belt for 5 years, 6 years competing, they've made so many mistakes, and the more mistakes you make, the less room there is for more mistakes. I'm talking tactically, right? We're talking like beginning of the fight, knowing I don't want to be here with this guy, I really want to be here. And another thing is you know yourself, you know your limitations better. I think one thing about being, you know, like hungry and young in that sense is that you're unaware of your limitations and what you can and can't do. There's a lot of ambition and like a lot of hunger, but you don't always know yourself too well, you know, and experience gives you that. Like I know that I can really beat Dave here, but I can't beat Dave there, right? Whereas like someone who is young is just like, I'll beat Dave anywhere. You know, like so sometimes it comes with that hunger, is just being like, I'll fight you anywhere, you know. Less strategical, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
No, for sure. I think now there's so many competitions going on that the younger guys are going to have a lot of experience, maybe more experience than someone who's a black belt earlier on could have gotten, because there weren't, like, when I started doing grappling competitions like in 2000, it was like one every 4 months.
Yeah.
And you're getting like 1-2 matches.
Yeah.
You know? So I remember like my brother and I early on had the advantage that since we came from wrestling, in 3 months you get like 30-40 matches. You know? So like we already had several hundred competition experiences, whereas most guys here, you know, at least I don't know how. I think in Brazil you probably had much more of a competition scene.
More than here at that time.
At that time, but the guys here, I mean, some of them, this is like the first grappling match or the second one they're doing, and I've already done like a couple hundred in wrestling.
Yeah.
So like competition wise, I already know like okay how to deal with the nerves and how to, you know, warm up and all that. Whereas I remember I would watch people in warm-ups and just
it's still like that. It's still I mean it's
still inadequate. You know, people coming in and they're breaking their first sweat on the mats. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It has to do with the sport being very young too. But you're right. Like you know, the back in the day, I remember like I was in Vegas in '99 and 2000 at John Lewis's school, and there was the Copa Pacifica.
Okay.
Kleber Luciano, I think, ran that one, and then there was a Joe Moreira Invitational. That was it. There was nothing else. You know, and then I think later Grappler's Quest started, and they were all over the place. And I never even fought Naga because it came only later. You know, I think they were on the East Coast. I think.
Yeah, I guess from the Northeast. And I remember the first grappling competition I did was actually some type of karate, full contact karate event, and it was on carpet.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember my brother. It was like this was like '99, maybe 2000. And it was carpet, and it was two like I guess like full contact karate guys.
Yeah.
But it was grappling rules, and I'm looking like we're doing this on carpet. I'm like, you can throw and stuff. He's like, yeah, you can do whatever. I'm like, chill, all right. So fortunately, they didn't really know much what they were doing, so I took them down. But I remember I did an armbar on the guy, and I almost knocked myself out. It was like a mounted armbar, so I went, and my head hit the back, and like,
yeah,
that hurt. You know? Yeah. Thank God I finished the armbar. But I learned a lesson that day. I'm like, on the street, you gotta tuck your chin in.
Yeah, man. Like that's the thing about training on the mat. It creates a false sense of security when it comes to grappling. Because like, I can smoke everyone on the ground. Like when you put concrete, a curb with a slope or like obstacles in the way, it changes things dramatically. It's like the self-defense is like a whole new ball game, man. It's not something you can really prepare for in a very objective way. You can have a loose idea of how to defend yourself. I mean, let me rephrase that. Not a loose idea. You can have a good understanding of what to do and what not to do in certain situations, but you can't prepare because it's not a controlled environment. It never is. So, yeah. A lot of variables.
And so I remember that. And then the next grappling tournament was Naga. It was like a Naga Orlando, I think, in like 2001. And we competed in that. But from that point, I don't think he ran another Naga for a while. And my brother and I started hosting tournaments because we needed to compete and we wanted to create the venue ourselves. You know, so we were flying the Naga banner. We had spoke with Kip, like, oh, we'll represent you and just run the events. And he was,
actually, it was the first time I heard him. Like, I remember you had these yellow shorts with like black stripe on.
Yeah.
And then I thought you owned the event or something because you were always like flying the Naga flag. I remember that.
Like, he was a big time supporter of us early in, you know, and I think it's partly because, you know, we helped spread the word on Naga, because before us there wasn't a no-gi grappling scene in
the
Florida,
US,
like in South Florida particularly, and we ran like 8 or 9 tournaments over like a 2-year period
for Kip.
I mean, it was our event, but we were, you know, it's like Naga sponsored.
Yeah.
And I remember back then, like, big numbers for us was like 300 competitors. You know, that's like, man,
it's very impressive.
But there was no internet really back then, so it was making mail out flyers, phone calls.
By the way, we sound way older than we actually are. It's like that was not that long ago, people. But you can say it's before the internet. The internet existed, but it wasn't like, it was hard to reach out to people like it is now. Like, the tools that we have now didn't exist.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, this is like 2002.
Internet was for emails. That was it.
Yeah, YouTube wasn't really a thing like that, you know, where you could have a video resource. People weren't like signed up for email lists. It wasn't you know, you had to be a super nerd to be into it.
I mean, it was you had to mail people stuff.
You had to mail people stuff, but yeah, it was the vehicles for getting that information out.
Yeah.
It wasn't accessible, especially to an idiot like me and my brother, where we weren't business savvy at that point. You know, we were just like making things happen on the fly. Like, how do you do this? Oh, okay, let's just try to do it. You know, like looking back, I'm like, man, it's impressive that my brother, who was most of the brains of that operation, was able to pull it off, because this is before we had actually met with Lloyd Irvin and understood like the business systems. But we were like 17, 18 running these things. It's kind of crazy.
It's pretty impressive.
It's totally nuts, you know, because we didn't really, you're just winging it. But yeah, I remember we like 300 competitors. I was like, man, we killed them in that one. And you look now, man, they get like 1,200 something competitors. Like,
it's insane. It's gotten huge. But going back to the experience that you were talking about, like I was just talking to Max about this the other day, like how much they wrestle and how much experience they got. And even though, like, one of the reasons I left the United States in 2000 was because I wanted to compete more. There were like 2 tournaments on the West Coast, like maybe 2, maybe 3 tournaments. We would jump into judo tournaments just to get the experience. And in Brazil, the competition scene was a little more advanced. It's still not as advanced as it is here or as it is in Brazil now, but you can compete once a month if you really wanted to, right? And we got the experience, but it's still nothing compared to what you get in wrestling. You know, and I think Max probably has over 1,000 matches, like over 1,000 matches.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was trying to think how many I have. I'm like, I don't know, like best case scenario 300. Like, I don't think I made it through. I don't think I have 300 matches. You know, and you get some of these guys, and he's like, you know, straight out of college, over 1,000 matches. Like, he's in his early 20s, and he's competed over 1,000 times, right? And to me, that right there is priceless. You know, you really get to know yourself, your limitations, and who you are. You know, tactically, like all of it. You know, I'm a big fan. And, you know, with the conversation started like this, we were talking about how can boxing do the same thing in amateur. They'll have like 100 amateur boxing matches. And the guys in MMA should do the same. That was kind of like the argument. I'm like, I don't think it's the same. And then, you know, because when it comes to sports like jiu-jitsu and wrestling, I mean, you get injured. You train hard. Sure. It's rough on your body. We get that. But I don't think getting hit in your head for 100 fights is a good idea, period, for longevity. No. Even though you need the experience, I can't see like, 100 fights amateur, and then you're going to go pro, and you're going to get another 30 fights. And you're like, that's 130 fights where you're getting punched in the head. And that's not counting the sparring, which is where most of the damage comes from, really. Sure. You know, so... Yeah, some sports it's just not. It's hard to get that experience.
Yeah, like I'm not a big fan of amateur MMA in its current formation because it's just MMA with no pay,
right? And with less time. That's it.
Yeah,
like, other than that, it's the same. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're not making it any safer, right? Yeah. And that's the problem, because at least in amateur boxing, They have the headgear, you know. So it's like, okay, it's taking a little bit of blow, although that's questionable too, you know.
Yeah.
But like I remember in Florida when they first started with amateur MMA, they were doing standing 8 counts. So
that's even worse.
It's even worse, all right?
But they don't know. The people don't know fighting. They'll do
no, they don't.
Shit.
They're coming from a boxing background. Oh, okay, give them 8 counts. It's going to be better for them. No, it's a lot worse. Well, unfortunately, I was on the receiving end of this. I was coaching a young athlete, and again, kind of because MMA doesn't have rankings, this guy that he was fighting was a stud, right? Like he could have fought pro, jacked out of his mind, looked like he was a wrestler and whatnot. And I have a guy who's like a true amateur, you know, fighting. And I'm looking like, this is not going to go well.
I have a feeling. Like, you just look at the opponent like, oh, shit.
Yeah, look at these 2 guys. This guy's partying on the weekends. This guy looks like he's never fucking drank alcohol in his life. He looks serious as hell. I'm like, oh, God. Sure enough, the fight starts. He gets dropped immediately. I think it was an overhand right. It's like, boom. Yeah. 8 count, 1. I'm like, oh, okay. It's not going to go well. Dude, the second time, the guy takes him down, half guard, starts pounding him. There's no ground and pound to the head.
Oh.
That's the other safety measure. Okay, he's getting pounded to the body, 8 count. I'm like, what? Like, because the guy wasn't...
Wait, but they don't stop it, though?
They don't stop it. They separated them, 8 count, started them back up on their feet. I was like, Jesus Christ, how do you lose?
Yeah.
How do you just keep going? I'm like, how's he going to get
out at this point? Like, how do I lose? It's so dumb, bro.
Because I'm looking at my brother, we're like, what the hell's going on? Yeah. And then he gets dropped one more time, and then the round ends. And we're in between rounds, looking at this guy, he wants to get out, you know what I mean? But like, he had enough heart where
trapped in the ring.
He didn't get out, but he's trapped by the rules, you know? And I was like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. I think the round started, and the next time he got dropped, and fortunately it was a body shot, they stopped the fight. Fortunately, I'm like, thank God. I mean, like, how is this going to end? Like, who thought of these rules and never really visualized it?
No, they don't know what they're doing.
It was totally.
But even in boxing, I think it's brutal. The 10 count to me is retarded. Like I said, the guy just suffered a concussion.
Yeah.
He doesn't even remember his own name. You're gonna have him fight again, get dropped again, and that's exactly what happens. Like, you know, at least half the time they get dropped again, and it's like concussion on concussion. I'm just looking at that and I'm going, that can't be good.
No, it's terrible for you.
They should just stop. You get dropped in your ass, you just stop the fight.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's definitely really bad for you.
I've seen amateur. I remember, like, I was in Sweden. They had Shuto A, B, and C. A was pro, and then they had B, which was amateur, which was, I don't remember what the gear was in B, but in C, it was like the low amateur, like a beginner level, right? It's like, it would be like the white belt division, the equivalent. And it was bigger gloves, the open palm gloves, shin pads, and headgear. And of course, it made it a nightmare to grapple with whoever's grappled with shin pads and headgear, it sucks, right? But at the same time, I was like, it kind of makes sense though, because if you're like, you know how they have like a lot of like the Wimp to Warrior program, and you get all these guys that are in their early 40s and maybe they just want to fight because they want to do it before they get too old. They just want to have the experience. It's a dream of theirs. Dude, I respect the hell out of those people. I've seen like journalists do that, like businessmen and people, you know what? I'm going to do it before it's too late, and I just want to know what it's like to be in a ring. Yeah. Right? For people like that, having some level of protection makes a lot of sense because they're not professionals. They're not, you know, they don't feed themselves and their family through fighting. So it's different when you're, like, for example, even like going back to jiu-jitsu, like if you allow heel hooks at the professional level, I understand the danger, but I think if you're a professional and that's how you pay your bills and that's your life, you take on that risk, right? Whereas if I understand why IBJJF bans it as well. I'm like on the fence with that because I understand where they're coming from. Like 90% of our practitioners, more like 95, are everyday people. Like they can't afford to blow their knee, right? It's too much of a risk. So I think that it makes sense to create safety barriers for the lower divisions, but again, so now you create a whole new rule set, so that creates problems too. Like IBJJF doesn't want to change that because they don't want to create a separate rule set, which they kind of do already because they allow.
They don't allow leg locks.
Exactly, and that's always my argument with them. It's like, you guys are already doing it. You just got to add some new techniques to the brown and black belt level. But then that, you know, now it's gi and no gi. Why is it different? Because they want to create one rule set because the gi and no gi rule sets are identical in IBJJF. But if you add the heel hooks, it raises the question: are you going to allow it in the gi as well? There's a part of me that wants to see that just to see what happens. I don't know if it's going to be that bad. Maybe it will. I don't know. Maybe it's easier to defend because I can grab your sleeve.
Yeah.
How do you heel hook me if I'm holding your sleeve?
For sure.
It might be easier to defend.
Yeah. When people talk about it, they only see the defensive drawback in the sense that there's so much friction now that spinning escape is going to be near impossible to do.
Yeah.
But then again, that's not the best escape to do.
That's not supposed. Exactly. Yeah. That's the argument. You're not supposed to spin. Yeah. I mean,
that's your last ditch. You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like you were slow in the uptake and you're feeling the pressure. Now you have to go with it. You know what I mean? But like if you're doing everything before, like you said, yeah, if you can grab your sleeve here, that's going to make it a lot easier to pull grips, get close, twist my heel in. So, I mean, I guess it's the same with everything, even with, with arm bars or whatnot. People say, oh, it's hard to escape the arm bars, but at the same time, if you're grabbing your own stuff, I don't know. I would think it cuts both ways.
It does. You're right. Like getting out of it, if you're caught, will be very difficult. But getting out of any locked submission is difficult.
Yeah.
Find me a submission you're caught and it's easy to get out of. I'm serious. Like name me one. That's the whole point is for it to be hard to get out of. You're caught, right? But I think during the fight, while they fight for the heel hook, if you control the sleeve, it'd be very difficult for you to catch me. And that grip is very difficult to break. It's like breaking a sleeve in 50-50 is a fucking nightmare, man.
Yeah,
it's
especially
so
because
hard.
You have to control the heel with one hand at least.
Yes.
Because you're hooking here and then you're trying to get the other hand to connect.
And if I have their good hand, the one that you really want, then you can't finish at all. So I think that, it might not go as bad as people think it would go. There was one tournament that allowed it. It was probably my favorite competition of all time. It was Budo Challenge in 2004 or 5. I think it was 4.
Was that the one with...
Hickson and Gracie's Budo Challenge.
Yeah, I was in there. I competed in that.
You did?
Yeah. I lost to Zanja in the first round in the rematch.
You were in the gi?
No, that was a no-gi one.
Oh, there was a no-gi one? I only saw the gi one.
No, he did one. No, I remember Hickson.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know he had a no-gi one.
Oh, but that you said 2004. So this one was 2007, 2000, or I think late 2000.
Was it Hickson's Gracie Budo Challenge? I didn't know he did too.
Yeah, he did too.
Huh. I remember the one I competed. I lost to Shanji too, bastard.
Shanji!
But I love the rule set because it was 3 points for near submission. So they apply the IBJJF criteria, which is basically the referee has to interpret that it was a near submission, and you have to be defending, because if you're not defending, there can be no danger by definition, right? Yeah. So it was 3 points for near submission and 1 point for position. I feel that, and I've made this argument a million times, they found a happy balance because they made the submission a priority, which I think it should be, but they didn't can position.
Yeah.
I think IBJJF over-prioritized position. Submission only swung the other way, and they solved some problems, created others by only allowing submission, not giving positioning any value. This is the reason why no one's ever going to wrestle in submission, only because it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Unless you're both wrestlers, you both really want to be on top. But the style that's going to develop from that is a very anti-wrestling style, right? Pull guard, because it makes more sense strategically. But when you're still given a point for a takedown, for a pass, for a sweep, it makes you like, okay, I don't want to get taken down.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to get swept. Like, that's going to cost me down the road, right? And I love that rule set. And they allowed heel hooks in the gi. No one went for them, ironically. I mean, maybe people did, but like I don't remember anyone finishing a fight in a heel hook, but they were legal. I remember Marcelo Garcia was in that tournament. He lost to Cameron Earl. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
Cameron Earl. I think he's beat Marcelo a couple of times. Like, he just had Marcelo's number for some reason.
He was the one guy that had his number.
Yeah. Alexandre Dantas, Café, beat Marcelo a few times too. And then he got footlocked by Aoki. Like Shinya Aoki. Yeah. And I remember, like, I'd never seen him before. Like, man, I didn't even, because like the BJJ scene was very Brazil-U.S. still. Yes. Like, I didn't even know they had like that. I mean, we know they had good grapplers, but like, there's no way this guy's gonna beat the guy who just beat Marcelo Garcia. That kind of thing, right? And I remember he broke Cameron's foot, and I remember, I got socks on. I'm gonna show you guys, but like in the middle of the foot, like right in the middle, like that's where he was complaining of the pain. It wasn't like and it made no sense to me at the time because I'm thinking, well, it's a straight foot lock. It should be the Achilles. Right? Like, why is he complaining about? And I finally, like years later, I start foot locking the way he was doing it, where you bite the end of the foot and you apply pressure to the top of the foot to finish. And it's a much better straight foot lock. That's the way Felipe does, the way Cavaca does it, the way I've been doing it. And I like it way more than attacking the Achilles. But Aoki was doing that. Like, you get the very end of the foot and you crank it. But, like no heel hooks, though, which is surprising. But I lean towards allowing it. I think the sport would benefit a lot, even if, I mean, probably more injuries overall.
I think what you said, just maybe allow it for pro divisions or the black belt divisions
Yeah.
or something like that. But on the side story, the Shinya Yoki, my brother grappled him at ADCC 2005. Same thing, didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
Because I remember we both drew Japanese opponents in the first round.
Yeah.
And I didn't know who my guy was either. Fortunately, I won that match pretty dominantly. But when my brother fought Shinya, he's a really good wrestler, judoka style. And they were going back and forth. And he kept doing this standing arm lock. That my brother's arm, he said he felt his elbow pop every time, but he just ate it and then got back up.
From the clinch?
From the clinch, from a Russian 2-on-1.
Yeah, he does it. He's done it in his
He
fights.
broke Justin Wisniewski, or Keith Wisniewski's arm in the Shudo fight.
I think that's the highlight that I saw.
Yeah, you just see his arm
But he snaps it, man. He's mean about
it.
Like,
no, he's really mean with that throw.
Like
I mean, he's a mean fighter in general. Like,
he's not there to play,
no, he's
patty cakes with you. Yeah. Because there's no time to tap. It's one of those submissions that you're either going to hurt him or not.
Yeah, it's a minute break.
At all. Yeah.
Yeah. So my brother got hit with that 3 times, and he just ate it each time. And he lost to him in overtime, I think. And my brother's like, man, who the hell is this guy? You know?
I'm surprised more people don't use that in MMA when you think about it, because I understand where Shinya is coming from. Because there's an ethical boundary that we have in the gym. There's like this respect towards your partner's health. But when you're in competition, I'm not saying I would do that, but at the same time, understand where he's coming from. It's a war. You're out there to win. If you got to hurt someone to win, fuck it.
I'll totally do that.
Yeah,
but I teach it all the time. But the caveat is not in the gym. When I show this technique, because my brother actually hassled them to figure out what it was after ADCC. He said, "Can you show me?" And Shinji kept walking away. My brother's like, "Show me the move," and then he's like, "Okay." And finally, he showed him.
Yeah. And
he had a unique grip, which he actually. Rather than grabbing the wrist, he would grab, like, if I grabbed your hand, he'd grab you here. So now he could control your elbow. And it's a hard grip to pull away from.
Yeah.
So from the Russian, he would grab here, boom, and then throw right from there. And man, and he does a kind of like a Harayagoshi, where he would step over your legs as well. So not only are your arm getting locked, you're going to get thrown, land on your head probably, because you have no arms.
But here's the thing about being, like, you have to practice that almost. Like, how do you get good at it? Like, how do you get good at something that hurts people?
That's tricky.
You see what I'm saying? Because, and it's not like, in theory, like, because if I have to hurt someone to win, I'll do it. Okay. But I don't have the skills to do that.
Yeah.
Because I never developed it. Like this guy, I mean, there's no way. How do you get good at something unless he has to do it in the gym? He must be doing it to people in the gym.
I mean, you could
to develop the confidence.
You could probably do it in a safer way, just without the arm lock. Maybe just doing the Russian 2-on-1 with the Harai. I mean, if you know how to do it, the Harayagoshi, just a hip throw. The only thing you're adding now is just controlling the arm.
Yeah.
So I think that's a move you could learn how to do without doing it live. Although you would probably get more experience. But at the same time, how many people's arms can you break in the gym?
I know.
There's certain moves like leg scissors the same way,
Yeah, we've been practicing that. Yeah. Like I've been showing people the scissor takedown.
I've had 2 brown belts break their legs out.
I blew my knee once. Yeah. Someone did it to me, and they blew my knee. You can practice it, controlled environment, have a chat with people right beforehand, like you have to jump kind of high, don't jump on the knee sort of thing. Yeah. Don't try to resist, fall down when they jump sort of thing. But you have to, it's a very, very efficient move. Like Aoki's and the scissor takedown. These are moves that I think that we all benefit from learning something
for sure about
them. Now that I think about it, the Aoki one, like I should start teaching that in the MMA class. That makes so much sense. Like on the fence.
For Russian 2-on-1s?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't
really know that. We did it from the underhook too, though.
Yeah, like you can do it from the underhook as well.
There's 2 ways, like in my head, like I know, like if I have a whizzer, I can if I really whip it, I can pop your elbow in that whizzer, right? But if I have the underhook, or if I have the whizzer, I grab your wrist, and then I can just turn away if you have the whizzer on me. That's the hand he controls, right?
Yeah, I think the way he
There's 2 ways of doing it.
Yeah, there's a few ways of doing that. I think one of them, like he has a video online where he shows it. It's off an underhook. He's doing the underhook, and the guy has a whizzer.
Yeah.
Grabs here, turns and goes. Boom.
Yeah.
Right. So he uses your whizzer against you, but you could also get it from a Russian 2-on-1 similar. Your grip is going to be slightly different because with the underhook, your arm's going to be over his shoulder.
Yeah.
With the overhook, you're going to be behind his shoulder.
Yeah.
But you still get the same type of pressure of driving down. But yeah, it's a good move. And in general, Russians are a solid move because you have control of his near arm, you know, and people are like, oh, he can punch you with a free arm. Like, with what power?
Yeah.
He's punching with his shoulder back like this. He's just slapping you in the face.
That's the thing about a lot of people that are critical of grappling. They're always like, oh, the guy's going to punch you. He's just going to punch you. And it's like, it's not that easy to punch someone in a fight. Like, I mean, you can touch him. You're not going to hurt him.
Yeah.
Because think about how much technique goes into boxing to create the power to knock someone out standing.
For sure.
And then you on the ground, you don't have all those mechanics. It's an arm punch. 9 out of 10, it's an arm punch. I think turtle position is the exception. That's why I always say that turtle position is the #1 TKO position in the game, is because that's the only position you can actually put your body into it and get some power out of your punches. But look at the punches from half guard, punches from side control. Mount a little bit, because mount, you actually got some gravity on your side, right? But even in closed guard, I think that everyone's like, oh my God, the guy's going to ground and pound like it's the scariest thing in the world. I'm like, you're looking at ground and pound from closed guard, and it's always like 9 out of 10 punches land to the body and they don't do any damage at all. Every now and then.
People don't really know how to punch on the ground. Like, one of the things, I love ground and pound.
Yeah.
And like, personally, I like being in the guard to throw ground and pound, but you have to practice it. And I don't see a lot of people hit the bags all day. They hit pads all day. Yeah. You don't see people hitting ground dummies all day.
Yeah.
And like, when I was training for MMA, most of my stuff was ground and pound.
Yeah.
Because I had a very simple game plan. I'm going to take you down.
Hold you down.
Beat you up. Beat the crap out of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then if you turn on your way, then I'll go for submission.
Yeah.
But the dynamics of ground and pound is very different, because most of your power comes from your hips. So when you're standing up, that's easy. But like you said, when you're ground, your hips are limited in mobility, especially in the guard. You can't really twist. Right? You're kind of square. So the second way you can generate power is from your shoulders. Right? So that's why, like, Fedor was a really good ground and pounder.
True.
And if you see how Fedor punches, they're all shoulder punches.
Yeah. But he put his body into it.
Even if the standing punches kind of look funky. They kind of turn over that way, and he punches that way. So like, I model a lot of my ground and pound that way. A lot of my ground and pound is overhands and loopy punches, so I can get my shoulder behind it.
Yeah.
And it's also about posture. You have to have a strong tall posture to start firing with power. All the time I see people on MMA, like, they're head to head, and then doing this, like, yeah, you're not doing anything.
There's nothing there.
The guy in bottom arguably has a better chance of cutting you
with elbows.
And you do than this guy.
In fact, like, that's an argument for Ferguson beating Khabib. That's coming up soon.
Yeah.
Because Khabib does pass with his head down a lot. Like, his head is constantly down when he's grinding, because he's a grinder, right?
Yeah.
And Ferguson's got a lot of elbow, so.
No, that fight, people are like making it like it's an easy Khabib fight. I think that's a very difficult fight for Khabib.
Because
stylistically,
is a good grappler.
Yeah. Ferguson is a good grappler, and he's just also an animal. You know what I mean? Like, the guy, like...
It's not a one. No, I agree.
I remember I had my girlfriend look it up. He had the same injury that I had, a complete ACL tear. And for me, that was like a year to get back. He fought like 3 or 4 months later. So not only did he manage to recover in that span, he had a training camp at the same time.
That's insane.
That's totally nuts.
Yeah.
You know? So
I think it's the toughest fight for Khabib in that division is Ferguson. I can't think of... I mean, everyone's like, oh, McGregor sells tickets, but stylistically, he's not the most difficult fight for a guy like Khabib.
Yeah.
Because Khabib can out-wrestle him. It's that simple.
And the thing is, McGregor is not a gas tank either.
Yes.
He needs to be able to win early or control the pace. And
true.
He's not able to do that with a guy
anyone
like,
who presses him. Yeah, true.
And a guy like... I mean, the same thing happened with Nate. When he wasn't able to put him away in the first fight, he got into the deep waters and got jacked up. And in the second fight, even, it was kind of back and forth a bit, you know, although he won at the end. So a guy like Khabib is just going to be able to pressure him. And Khabib has shown that he could hurt you too.
Yeah.
You know, like he dropped him with that overhand, you know. So it's a much harder thing. I think a guy like Ferguson is stylistically a much more dangerous matchup for him. So I'm very interested in that match. I think that's like... And Ferguson should have been the champ, you know. Because he was the champ originally, and then...
And what happened there?
He had the knee injury.
Oh, that's right.
But I guess the UFC figured, he's going to be gone for a year. He's got to relinquish the belt. But then he fought in the same event that
the guy we were fighting for the belt for.
Yeah, like he got a raw deal.
It's gotten too weird, man.
Yeah.
Like the whole bad motherfucker belt, like, right? Was that the BMF?
Yeah, the BMF thing, yeah.
Like, they're just like doing weird stuff. Like it's
now
just
they're
like
selling the replica belts, you know that?
They have what?
They're selling the belts that people to have the belt at home.
Oh, you can sell it. Anyone can buy it. How much?
$850.
Yeah, they did. Here's the thing. I'm not the owner. I mean, Dana's a smart guy, smarter than me, but it just doesn't make sense to me. I think you lose so much credibility when you do that. But again, you make money, so credibility, money. I lean towards conserving the brand. That's what I would be doing, is try to conserve and preserve the brand for posterity. Yeah. Right. So it never loses its credibility. It goes on for centuries to be the number one MMA promotion on the planet. Right. But when you strip people from titles and then you have them fight on the same card, and you strip them because they couldn't fight, but they're fighting on that card. That doesn't make. I didn't understand. How does that even add up?
Yeah, that's what I didn't get. I'm like, how did he lose his belt that fast? And he was still fighting anyways. I mean, granted, he probably is just a nutcase and shouldn't be able to make it to recover that fast. But still, it's kind of unfair to him that he's not making. And it's a real financial cost, because
of course,
as a champ, not only you're making more money per fight, and you're probably going to headline the event, get pay-per-view share,
That's what everyone wants. It's the $1 per pay-per-view. That's the real deal right there.
And also, sponsor-wise, I think the champ gets more money than anybody else with this Reebok deal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a real kick to the nuts.
That's the thing. But the thing with Reebok, dude, it's not that much money. I remember looking at it, and it was like these guys were getting paid like $2,500 to start at the
lower level.
Yeah, and then it goes up to $50,000 or something at the higher tiers. But which sounds like a lot, but when you're making millions and you're making $50,000 from sponsorship, it's nothing.
Yeah, if you don't have a perspective on it before, I believe people were making more money off the sponsorship than they were off the actual fight. Back when the UFC didn't have the Reebok deal, and people were able to get their own sponsors, because first of all, you're not getting one sponsor, you're getting like 5 or 6 different sponsors, and you have the front of the shorts, the back of the shorts, the banner, you have your walkout gear, your ornament attire. So you had so many spots you could sell that
the rule of thumb went, a good manager will get you as much as you got for your fight and sponsors. It's a difficult thing to meet. Like if you're making $100,000 a fight, it's not easy to sell $100,000 in sponsorships. But like a good manager get close to that. Like back in the day, the right guy, right people, you can get close to that number. And that's so, like, in other words, that was almost half the fighter's income. And he got chopped in half overnight. And that was a big hit MMA fighters took. And like, it's surprising how the UFC totally got away with it. Because people are complaining, but what are you going to do about it? Like, we're the UFC. And that's the thing about having like what is not a monopoly, but it's close to a monopoly in a lot of ways, is that you have so much leverage over people. It's like, it's take it or leave it. You want to fight in the UFC, I'm going to pay you this much. You're not going to get any peanuts for sponsors. And that's that. What are you going to do about it?
I remember talking to a buddy of mine that left the UFC, went to Bellator, and he's like, I'm making double the money I would have now because I can get the sponsors.
Exactly.
So it's like, it was like a business decision. I'm like, I don't blame you.
It's a lot, but the thing is that the UFC carries the prestige, and it's the fighters, I think they're more motivated for prestige early in their career, at least, than they are for money. Later in life, I could see that changing. You got family, you got bills, the money becomes a bigger factor. But I think early in life, it's more about prestige. That's how you explain the Olympics. That's how you explain IBJJF. Right?
There's no
like
money.
How else do you explain people killing themselves and crying when they win? And like, because it's not the money that's getting these guys out of bed every morning. It's the prestige. It's the sense of accomplishment, right? The pride you have of having your hand raised. I'm a world champion. And the UFC, even though they do pay people, they know that, and they leverage that a lot against their fighters, because I've heard this from fighters, where they'll say no to other organizations and sign with UFC because they go, I just want to put the gloves on. Like it's a fetish. Like they want to put the UFC glove on, UFC, and go, because they've been watching UFC and those black little gloves with UFC on them for decades, man. So it's a dream. Like just putting those gloves on is a dream. So they gonna leverage that against the fighters, and fuck you if you don't like it.
I've known quite a few people that once they got to the UFC, they were done.
Yeah, it was a dream.
Yeah, it was it. They set their aspirations low, in my opinion, because if I'm going to the UFC, it's because I want to win the title.
Yeah.
But they just wanted a participation medal. And so like, I got
it. I understand like why that would be. It's like playing for the NBA or the NFL. Like, you know, it's impressive, but I'm with you. It's like, we'll give a shit unless you're. In my head, I'm like, you know, I never made it to the top 10. Like, I would, to me, at least make it to the top 5, top 10, maybe.
Then, yeah.
So I go like, all right, maybe I didn't win the title, but I was up there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But not just, I was on an undercard, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But still, man, I think there's something about the UFC is a special event. I feel like because they got the whole thing going.
They got the ball rolling.
Even BJJ owes a lot to the UFC.
Oh, for sure.
I don't think BJJ, would it exist as we know it? Would it blow up? And I don't think it would have blown up in Brazil. You know why? Because it was dead in Brazil. There was nothing happening. Like, there were people practicing, but it was like, I grew up in Brazil. I never heard of jiu-jitsu. Judo and taekwondo and karate, I knew of those. Capoeira, I knew of those. Like, those are popular martial arts. Jiu-jitsu, as in practiced by the Gracie family, I never heard of it until Royce Gracie. You know?
Yeah.
And it was very niche, man. And then, you know, once Art Davie and Horian put the UFC together, there's another guy, the third one. I can't remember his name now. But that right, then the next year, IBJJF was founded, which is interesting. They started at the same time. UFC 93, IBJJF was founded in 1994, even though it wasn't called IBJJF. It was called CBJJ.
Okay.
But it was a similar organization. But like, I really think that the UFC is what got this whole martial arts revolution, what gave it a boost. It existed in Brazil. BJJ existed, MMA existed in Brazil, but there was no visibility.
Yeah.
You know, and you could say like, oh, there are people in Japan, they were doing the same thing. It's true. They had their Kosen Judo that's very similar to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They had their Shuto, which is MMA, right? And it's been going on forever. But it didn't blow up, did it?
Yeah.
It wasn't Shuto that blew it up.
No.
You know, it was, at the end of the day, it was the UFC. That's what got everything going.
Yeah, they need the eyeballs. That's always been the problem, I guess, with the Japanese promotions, is that they don't have enough eyeballs. You know, even though, like, you would see the stadiums, like when you had Pride FC, they were like loaded, but pay-per-view numbers weren't there to support the model.
Yeah, they sold tickets. That's right. But I think they had a TV deal that was profitable. I'm not sure of the details. I know there was like some sketchy stuff that went in the background.
There were a lot of sketchy stuff.
Yeah, but like, they were huge. I mean, they had to be I imagine they were profitable to some extent. Like how they were selling outside Tama Arena. That's like what, 120,000 people. Yeah. Like that alone, like you got to be at least cover expenses with that much.
You would think. I don't know what happened, but yeah, it's
I miss Pride though.
I love the rules better.
I like the rules better too. Yeah. I like the rules. But my favorite thing about Pride was the audience, the crowd.
Yeah,
they were so respectful, man. And I'm Japanese in some ways, because like when I see MMA, I don't see a bar fight. I see a ceremony. I see two warriors, people that are very dedicated, and I understand how dedicated these guys are, and I understand how much it means to them. This is not a bar fight.
Yeah. This
is not hate. It's always MMA is violent. The violence involves hate. There's no hate in there. This is just love. MMA is love. It's passion. I'm in there because I got to prove a point to myself, or maybe it's to your dad because you're pissed off at dad, or to someone else, whatever the case is. But there's a passion there, right? It's nothing against the person across. In fact, you really respect. You might talk trash about that person to sell tickets, and I understand. The truth of the matter is, you really respect that person. That person kept you up at night.
Yeah.
That person was stopping you from sleeping. That's how much you respect him. You were killing yourself on that treadmill, right? Because you respect him so much and you really don't want to lose.
Yeah.
You know, so and I feel that the crowd was a manifestation of this ceremony, right, in Japan. Whereas you get the Western crowd, it's, you know, what are you doing laying on top of them? You know, it's gay, or they'll be booing, or, you know, and I can't even watch it from the crowd, man. It drives me crazy.
No, it is a very different scene, you know. It's just a different vibe. So I can appreciate, like, I've actually, like, one of the weird experiences I had was fighting a Bodog fight, because there was no crowds. At least at the shows that I went to, they were taped in like secluded areas. So the only crowd were other fighters and coaches. So it's kind of weird because you're hearing like 20 people. You know, but there's cameras everywhere. You know,
you're expecting the noise.
Yeah, so it's kind of the weirdest one was when I fought in Costa Rica, because we're fighting at 10 o'clock in the morning, just odd for a fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you wake up, say, "Oh, I got to fight like a couple."
That is weird. Yeah.
And I remember actually Masvidal was cornering me in that one. My student, so he had lost my mouthpiece. I had to get like a boil and bite bag. You know those cheapy 99 cents one, and boil it in the coffee water.
Yeah.
So it was a horrible.
The whole thing
job.
was I
remember, and it was like the bottom of the bag. I had pubic hair, and it was disgusting. I'm like, Christ. So we had to put that in, and I remember the walkout was on the beach. So they had the ring on the beach with a big canvas on top. So you're walking to the beach, and I'm walking like, man, this doesn't make any sense.
This is weird.
This is so weird. And then you see the ocean right there and the waves crashing. Yeah. So it's like the sound was totally off. I remember it didn't feel like I was walking into a fight, you know. But people don't get that environment like really messes people up. Like I think that's why like people who do like Ultimate Fighter or when they're doing those tape closings and like how come they don't fight as good as when they find it, because it's a very different feel, you know. Like I imagine the Ultimate Fighter experience must be very weird because you're living in the place where you're close by to where
you're hanging out with the people you're fighting.
Hanging out with people all the time, and you're being watched by like 20 people also.
Could never. I've been a coach on the Ultimate Fighter 3 times. Yeah. The first time I was very close to being on the. I tried to be on the show as a fighter. The one that the Frank Mir was going against the Nogueira. Vinny was on there. And then what happened was like they had just changed the rules. You had to be at least 3 professional fights to be on there. Before the previous season, they allowed people 0-0. Yeah. So like, oh man, and they had just changed the rules, so I couldn't get on there. But like after I was in there as an assistant coach, I'm like, thank God I didn't do this. I could have never. No way, man. It's just like they're in your face every day. Cameras in your face every day. The drama, the BS, and you got to fight your friends. You're supposed to like this person, hang out with them, and you got to fight them the next day. You can drink, you can't drink. I remember one time they were getting an earful for drinking, right? So they have the cameras showing them pulling all the alcohol out of the house. This is a chance of a lifetime, blah, blah, blah. You guys shouldn't be partying. So the cameras are showing them pulling all the alcohol out of the house. And as soon as the cameras were gone, like they're bringing it back in. And I saw, I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right? They're not serious. Like, and it's like that's when I saw it's like everything is a show. Yeah. Like none of it is actually real. Like every single, and then the people they fall into it too. Like because once you realize that it is a show, these guys are actors, so it's reality TV, but it's not really real, because they know that they're being filmed, so they change. So they start acting the way they normally wouldn't act. And you see these people that are yelling at each other. And I'm like, you guys don't dislike each other. Why are you yelling at each other? Like, why are you talking to each other like that? Nothing ever happened. And he was like, oh, the cameras are on. You got to entertain the crowd. So they turn into actors, but without a script. Yeah. That's what happens. They're actors with no script.
Yeah, I mean, I was part of a reality show. There was like this Spanish judge show. And it was such a retarded premise. It was like the son wanted to be a cage fighter, and the mom didn't want him to be a cage fighter, so they brought them over to our gym to train him and show the mom that he could do well or whatnot. But it was all fake. Like the mom wasn't the mom; it was just somebody. I'm like,
reality TV show is not a good name.
No,
I think you should be like a loose script acting kind of something like, because it doesn't really portray people in their real selves.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, the only way you would do it would be like that movie with Jim Carrey when they don't know they're being filmed.
What's it called? I know you're talking about.
I can't remember it.
I know you're talking about. It's a good movie. Yeah.
He's in the big the biodome.
Big globe. Dome. Yeah.
Because then you see people behaving like they actually would if they don't know they're being filmed.
Yeah.
But that's illegal.
True. All right, Dave. I think it's time for you to get back to it. I go grab some lunch.
Yep.
You been training, man? I've seen you in the gym in a while.
Just weightlifting,
Dude, get back in there, man.
I gotta get back in. The thing, this wrist is getting better. It's just I've done a couple privates here and it's feeling a little better. Yeah. I remember the one time I went there, like I think it was last year, like November. I just remember my wrist was just getting jacked up, like bad, But
I feel the thing about my hands too is like the less, because I have all these wrist injuries. So the less I train, the weaker they get.
Yeah.
And it's hard to come back. And then when you start trying to get them back in shape by using them, they start hurting again. So you can either be in no pain and completely out of shape, or get your hands in shape and be in a lot of pain.
Yeah,
It's like
well,
you can't have your hands
no,
conditioned
you can't
and
do
not be
nothing.
in pain.
Yeah, no, I've been weight training and doing deadlifts and squats and bench presses. Like I feel it every day because every time I'm doing these lifts, it hurts, and forearm curls and stuff. It just gets better. But I've been using that little wrist brace. To keep it. It helps keep it a little bit straighter because like the mechanism of the injury didn't make any sense to me. I was doing a straight arm pull down. It's just on the cables doing this. And in the middle of the pool, it just popped really loud right here. Went crack! I was like, what the hell? I'm like, oh, maybe it was just like a random crack. And then no, my arms started locking up. And I felt my hands start going down. Like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
It's just been,
I've had weird injuries like that, like out of nowhere. I tore my meniscus sitting down. No one believes me. I was in class. I remember I did this right here, and I leaned on my knee, and I felt it. I'm like, fuck, what is that? And after that, my knee was never the same. I needed surgery. But I mean, it was probably that was just like the cataclysm. Because I just come from like 2 camps back to back, but I just leaned on the knee, boop, and I felt it. But
you never know what. I have similar things with my shoulder. I remember I was next to the cage watching a fighter, and then I went to reach over to give him a fist bump.
Popped your shoulder. The dumbest shit. I'm not even the one fighting.
Like what?
Yeah.
How does it happen?
Yeah. But I think a body being stressed will do that. Like you're more likely to, like anything will.
Yeah, you know, it's like when people get injured, you usually get injured at the end of the training session because why? You're tired. You're starting to let your guard down.
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
You always gotta be like I've popped so many ribs and stuff
you know what
right
I do?
towards the end of training, and that's why like now like. I remember when I started coming, like, when I came here to start training with you, remember, I'll tell you, I just need to sit out. You know, like, and I remember, like, back in the day, I would never sit out of a round because that's being a bitch, you know what I mean? But, like, here I'm like, I know, I got to respect the limits now, you know, because I know, like, when I start feeling a little bit off in my head, I'm like, okay, let me stop now because if I don't respect this feeling, I know that there's a chance I could get hurt. Maybe I won't, but I know that there's a good probability that I will, so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna.
You know what? I try doing that with my guys because I know that you're right. People get injured. The very last round is always the one that people get injured. So I never tell them it's the last round. And what I would do is if I want to give them another push, is I control it. So it's like hard drilling, like takedowns back to back, like something that can push them physically. Yeah. But it's controlled. It's not live. Yeah. Because it's such a common theme, man. The last final round, hey guys, final round, hard push. And I think people, because their guard is down, because they're tired and they're the body being not as sharp probably doesn't take care of itself as well. But they tend to push even harder because it's the final round, right? So trying to be careful. But let's do this again soon, Dave, and I'll catch you again when? Let's do this again next Wednesday.
Yeah.
All right, good shit. All right, thank you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.